When I was a young boy, my dream was to be a veterinarian. And my love for animals, like many of you listening, was deep. And I loved all sorts of animals, from the elephants down to, obviously whales in the ocean, any of those species that you see at zoos or aquariums. At one point, I wanted to be a marine biologist. And then as I grew older, that honed into, okay, I'm going to be a veterinarian. Then it was, what field of veterinary medicine? And I really fell in love with large animals, and I'm a big guy, and I thought, I love my cats and dogs, but I really want to focus in on large animal medicine. And then when I started to be around horses more, that became entrenched. And I knew I was going to be an equine veterinarian. As I went to Cal Poly to earn my undergraduate degree, and as life goes, things came up and I had to put myself through my undergrad, and I had to do some other things just to secure my bachelor's degree. I realized maybe vet school was down the road. And I went off in the military for a while to help pay back school, and then also in the private sector. But that love for horses, that love for learning was still in me. And I went off to get my master's degree to bump me into vet school to help improve my grades and finish off a couple prerequisite courses that I didn't get in my undergraduate to get into UC Davis. But then when I was in graduate school, and I realized there's other things I could do to be around horses. And being a veterinarian, day in, day out, yes, you are saving horses' lives, but you're not getting to do a lot of the fun stuff, training, riding, breeding all the time. That's really where my passion developed, and I decided to go get my PhD instead. Then as a professor at Clemson University, University of Florida, seeing these young, eager students come through my doors, mentoring them on the many jobs in the equine industry. Because a lot of them were like, well, if I want to work with horses, I have to be a vet, right? And I said, no, there's multiple jobs. There's multiple things you can do that make a good living. And then in preparing for this podcast, I didn't quite realize how many of those jobs there are. When you look at the equine industry as a whole, there are so many jobs. And I know just a few weeks ago, we talked about the impact of the equine industry. Is it still relevant in the world? And yes, it's huge. It's massive. I mean, you've got 60 million horses, 40 million donkeys, and then all the other equids. So close to over 100 million equids walking this planet that need feed, that need healthcare, that need farriers, and all the different things that these animals need, because I'll put donkeys in there too. You need the trainers, you need all of this. So there are quite a few opportunities out there for anybody to get involved. And then there's some I hadn't even thought of. So again, looking at this from different angles, your standard veterinarian, well, we're going to talk about these jobs, the farrier and all those that you probably work with, the barn manager, the trainer. We're going to look at their salary ranges, and we'll keep it in US dollars. And then we'll also look at the qualifications to do those jobs. But there are multiple, and I'm just going to cover some of them today. I mean, there's other aspects. One thing I can't even cover is transport. Transporting horses. I mean, that's a truck driver, or driving a trailer rig to move horses around wherever you are. So there are so many jobs, and it is pretty exciting when you look at it and you look at all the different people that are supporting the horse industry. I mean, just right now, as I'm recording this, in a few weeks, the Paris Olympics in 2024 are to begin. And I was thinking about all of those people. And one of my good friends, she's part of that with Team Canada. And she's there to support them. But all those people that go in to preparing that horse for the Olympic Games. I mean, there's multiple people from multiple different disciplines. I mean, I'm not even talking about the rider. I mean, that's part of it, but just the horse itself. So what goes into preparing that horse for the Olympics, and, you know, who's working there? And then we can go to a therapeutic riding center and think about everything that needs to go into supporting that horse, not just the trainers and the barn manager or the daily cares of those horses. What about the feed? Where's that coming from? You know, who's preparing that feed as far as before it even gets to the barn, as far as cutting hay, curing hay, or if you're feeding supplements or bagged feed, that's a whole industry in itself. So you can see there are a lot of jobs. And, you know, in the industry podcast, I talked about globally, the horse industry contributes about 300 billion US dollars to the global economy. And that's probably an underestimate. There's probably, you know, I think closer to maybe 400 billion. So big players, but again, a lot of that are people that are not only the feed, but, you know, what about equipment? Who makes your saddles, saddle pads, all of that stuff, hoof picks? I mean, just the simple stuff. There's an industry there, right? So when you think about it, you're like, wow, okay, there are a lot of people that support this one animal. Then you get into training and health. So the bottom line in this is the equine industry is healthy, it's thriving, and it's not going anywhere. So when you look at some of these jobs that we're going to talk about, you can see where they're going to be consistent or even keep growing. So we're going to go through these. I'm going to touch upon a bunch. They're fun. Some of the ones you probably could think off the top of your head, and then some that maybe you haven't thought of before. And we'll talk about the salary ranges and qualifications, because if you have anybody, if you have children, if, you know, relatives, or if you are a trainer yourself, or you manage a barn, and you have people like, how do I get involved in the horse industry? Well, here's some things for them to consider. Now, to start it off, I'm going to start off in health, because that's an obvious one. Like me, back in the day, I was going to be a horse veterinarian. And I did a whole podcast on this topic. We are short equine vets. For me, it was more looking at what the vet does day to day. Then I looked at the salary range, which at the time, I didn't quite know the full range of it, because I know of some equine vets that are doing very well financially. And it just kind of depends on, you know, your specialty. And I was a reproductive specialist. Just for me personally, if I would have went and gone to vet school, specialized in equine repro, I could be making six figures easily. If I was still back in Florida or Kentucky, or say even here in New Zealand, I mean, I could be making that, because that's such a specialty. But, you know, equine vets are a wonderful way to be involved in the horse industry. I've sent many students to vet school. I have many friends that are equine vets around the United States and here in New Zealand, and a couple in Canada and a couple in Australia. And so I do have friends that are equine vets. Now, that is, you know, just day-to-day care, your vaccinations, your surgeries, and even then, you know, you could be specialists within that, because you could be like an equine eye specialist. So like human medicine, there are specialists in equine veterinary medicine. Emergency care, all of that stuff. We've discussed that. And then the salary ranges, like I said, there's equine vets making 120,000. Some of the big ones, and I remember in Kentucky, like, you know, Rood and Riddle, the huge hospitals, some of those vets are doing very, very well, because they're handling, you know, multi-million-dollar horses, and they're the best of the best, and they can do very, very well. But averages in the US range from 75,000 to 80,000 USD. Okay, so United States dollars. That was the average when we did that podcast. Now, our veterinarians have to go through quite a bit to become a veterinarian. In the US, Canada, other countries, they take a lot of prerequisite courses in their undergrad. Many of them go on to earn their bachelor's degrees. A few get in without finishing their bachelor's, but most finish their bachelor's. Then it's 4 years of medical school. I mean, literally medical school, like a human doctor. It's intense. Again, many friends that went through it. I used to teach at the vet school, all of that. So it is. They're very bright. I mean, I've seen hundreds of these students come through my classes. They are incredibly bright, incredibly driven, incredible students, and incredible people. So that's why we've got to give a lot of love to our equine vets. Now, in other countries, because I know this is a global audience I'm speaking to, you have to do a period of undergraduate at a university, very intense. Then you go and do a postgraduate degree. It's like a master's degree. Again, very intense, very competitive for 2 years. So it depends on the country. Different countries have different qualifications to become a veterinarian. But again, wonderful field. Okay, so that's one of the ways, and probably the more difficult, I think. Well, I mean, some of them to be a top trainers, it's very difficult too, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later. But here's other jobs within the equine health industry. You don't necessarily have to be a veterinarian. You can be an equine veterinary assistant. So it's like a veterinary nurse. Again, depends on what country you are and what you call it, or a vet assistant. These jobs are just as important to the health of our horses. You see them at equine vet hospitals. They're like equine vet nurses, or again, vet assistants, depends on where you live. And they work alongside the equine vets for medical care. They do some of the exams. They assist during surgeries. They help with the treatments. They give medications, help triage horses, handling horses. They help maintain records and then maintain the facility. So our larger equine vet hospitals do have equine vet nurses, and very talented, and, very, again, driven to be a part of the industry and help these animals. Now, depends again on what country you're in. Like say the UK, I know Australia, New Zealand, it's like a 2-year associate's degree. It depends on the program. I mean, it could be a 1-year degree program. Like I was helping teach rural animal technicians that do help veterinarians. Now in the United States, places like that, there is accredited veterinary tech colleges. It's like 2-year programs, associate degrees, some 4-year programs. And students that get undergraduate, say animal science, pre-veterinary medicine degrees, they go and work in vet hospitals too. I've had many of my students that didn't want to go to vet school, but they wanted to be in equine health, and they got jobs at equine clinics helping. So salary is going to vary, can make up to $40,000 USD annually. So not quite as much as our vets, obviously. But again, that's going to vary on where you live, how many hours you put in, if you do overtime, and your experience and all of that. So, starting salary, 25,000, maybe 30,000, which is, kind of a standard job for many these days. But again, like our equine vets, these are specialists. They're in demand, and they're very much needed throughout the industry. They're a critical piece of our industry. So with our vets, our vet technicians or assistants. Now, the next part of health I thought of was the dentist. And the equine dentist role has changed quite a bit in my lifetime. When I was young, you had equine dental specialists. These were not veterinarians. These were specialists that had been floating horse teeth for many years, have the qualifications, the experience, and the education. There was a shift, this is maybe 10, 15 years ago, where a lot of laws were changing, and it's by country too, where some of these procedures that the dentists were doing were deemed medical in nature, that you had to be a veterinary doctor. Not going to get into the politics of it, but there is it's it's a frustrating issue, because I've known many wonderful equine dentists, a few, not many, but a few, that lost their business because the laws changed in the state that they lived in and they had to move. What's also unfortunate is that, in trying to protect our equine vets and their livelihood, and that's something they should be doing, we know our equine vets are overworked. We know their quality of life is very difficult because of all the calls for colic. During foaling season, they never sleep. It's very, very rigorous, the careers. Now, we talked about how that's changing, right, with the industry recognizing that. But now it's like, okay, now you have to be an equine dentist as part of your profession. So the laws have changed. There are some states that allow non-vets to perform equine dental work. The list I have, I don't know if this has changed recently, but like states like Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, that was, I know, always a debate. Maryland, South Carolina, Texas, a few others. There's a bunch of them where you don't need to be a DVM to do dental work. But again, it's going to be dependent on the country, because certain countries like New Zealand have certain laws where you have to be a veterinarian to do some of the work that they do. Now, the equine dental technicians, they can make $40,000 to $70,000 a year. So, they're just under what our vets would make. But all the dental care, floating teeth, filing those sharp points, extracting teeth, addressing any dental issues, most are certified from an accredited equine dental program. And then obviously their experience in hands-on training. So in those areas where they don't need to be a DVM, they should have some certification, right? And some of you listening, you've been with an equine dentist that's not a DVM, and they do wonderful work. But again, the laws have changed, and they still are changing, as we know. Then when we're looking at health, this one, the reproductive specialist. Now, when I was doing my PhD training, I was not, it was a, PhD versus DVM. The DVM degree is a very technical degree. Your medical degrees is here's how you assess an animal, here's the disease, here's how you treat the disease, step 1, step 2, step 3. And they're very talented. And then it's always funny, I always laugh about all the chemistry I had to take in my pre-vet classes. They are pharmacists. I mean, they have to, especially, in the equine field, you've got to know your medications. You've got to know the chemistry of those medications. You have to know what you're putting in body chemistry. So again, like I said, these vets are brilliant. They're very, very intelligent. So they have to master all of these fields, but it's a very technical degree, where a PhD was very philosophical. Well, we're scientists. Let's think about the world, and how does this work? Well, we don't know this, and we would propose a hypothesis and then learn how to test it. But I did get technical training, so how to collect stallions, no problem, analyze everything, breed mares. Then I was specifically doing embryo transfers. I was doing genetics in early embryos and oocytes, all of that, right? So I was getting a lot of technical training while I'm still sitting here in the corner going, wondering about life, looking in the stars, but really thinking about the biology of reproduction from the cells all the way up. Now, in my technical training, I did thousands of hours of ultrasounds. Again, like I said, I did, a couple hundred embryo collections. I was very skilled at that. And I could easily go in and ultrasound a mare all day long safely. I was very well trained. Knock on wood, never had an issue, never perforated rectum or anything like that. I was very lucky and very slow and just cautious. But with all that training, I could not go and assess a pregnancy in Florida. So if privately I was doing work on the side, if I could with a PhD, I couldn't go and say, yeah, your mare's pregnant, because that is a DVM. That's a medical diagnosis. But I could go in an ultrasound and just have the person look at the screen and then hold the probe over the pregnancy, don't say anything, and then just move on. But, I never did that because I was a professor. Just saying, equine reproductive specialist, you still need some of that DVM in there for some of these things, yet you could help manage brood mares. You could breed horses. If you were trained properly, you could ultrasound to look for when to breed horses. You can do the artificial inseminations. You can do the embryo transfers. You just can't, depends on where you live again, but you couldn't diagnose a horse with, oh, she's pregnant. Like it was, I was like, okay. So that was the limitations. But again, when I talked about Dr. Martha Vogelsang, my mentor, her husband Stephen Vogelsang managed a massive ranch in Texas. He was one of probably the best in the world for embryo transfer at the time, and he was doing this work every single day, and he loved it, and he helped train me. And so salary ranges 50 to 80,000. Again, this is where some places you probably might make more. I imagine those breeding managers on some of these top end thoroughbred farms probably make a lot more money than that because they're probably some of the best in the business. If you are a DVM and then specialize in equine repro, I can guarantee you probably can make over six figures. If you're in the right place in the country where there's a lot of breeding, there's a lot of embryo technologies, where you're doing the embryo transfer stuff or some of these really advanced techniques that we learn. So if you're DVM, you're probably going to make a lot more than that in this field. But just for the layman who gets a bachelor's degree, say in animal science or veterinary medicine, and then get specialized in equine repro, which could be a master's degree. I've trained students that in my master's program that have gone off and managed breeding farms. But it's fun. I love it. I mean, it's amazing to have a mare pregnant, and then when she gives birth to that foal 11 months later, and that's part of your job is helping foal. It's just, I loved it. I lit up. That's why I studied what I did and did all the research I did. So I can't recommend that field enough. Okay, keeping it along in health. Here's another one, chiropractor. Now, there is acupuncture and some others. I didn't cover acupuncture in this one, but chiropractor, I remember I was exposed to this as an undergrad many decades ago. Not many, just a few decades ago, but where they brought in a chiropractor in one of our classes when I was an undergrad, and they showed the horse, and then they showed the horse licking his lips and like relieving stress and back pain and stuff like that. So there are many schools around the world for chiropractic, I guess, to get a degree, and then they could specialize in horses. In the US, you can actually earn a doctor of chiropractic, multiple schools, but a lot of that's human. But they said human chiros can make up to $150,000 a year. Horse chiro making up to $80,000 a year. But there are certification programs around the country and then around the world. So that is one area. And then, like I said, acupuncture was another one that some people have studied in horses. Then with health, you have massage therapist. So again, getting those horses ready for the Olympics. I wonder if they have massage therapists. Maybe that's a secret. I don't know. But they can help give massages to horses that are sore, helps improve circulation, could enhance their performance. There are certification programs around the world. Again, depends on where you live, from accredited equine massage therapy programs. And they can make up to $50,000 a year. So that's a lot. We've gone from the vet to the vet tech. Now we're into massage. Let's talk about the farrier. Probably one of the most important jobs around in the industry. Next to our veterinarians, obviously. Your farrier is, they're golden. They are worth so much to our horses. They do so much for our horses. And when you find a good farrier, you better take care of them because there isn't a lot of them out there. They work incredibly, incredibly hard. Any of you that have ever tried to trim feet know what a demanding job that is. It is so tough. And I've taught students years on hoof care, and I'd get under there and we would, lightly trim a hoof, and just holding it is backbreaking and it's physically demanding. And when your farrier comes, I just loved it. I was holding horses. I mean, since I was a young kid, holding horses for my farrier all the way up to, being a professor. And they just love to talk usually. I've always been blessed with really wonderful farriers. They're just, as hard as the work is, they're people, they love people. They love talking. Take care of them, please, because we need them and we need more of them. So this is the one that's taking care of the horse's hooves, trimming, shoeing, any hoof health issues. Again, and they know, just talk to your vet. If you've got a good farrier, they know it's like, okay, you've got this hoof abscesses. You need to speak to your veterinarian. You've got this problem going on, a little laminitic, whatever. You need your vet involved too. Farriers, like I said, the good farriers, those are the ones. They are brilliant, smart people. Salary range as low as $30,000 up to $70,000 annually. Again, it's going to depend on the area. If they're really rural, they're probably not making as great. But I imagine those farriers, say again in Lexington, Kentucky, Ocala, Florida, parts of New York, or wherever, are probably doing okay, and they deserve it, right? Because it is, again, a very, very difficult job, but they love it. Like, you just see it; they love their jobs. Qualifications, generally an apprenticeship and certification from a farrier school, and then that experience, and that lifelong experience. So that farrier that's been out for a while, that has seen it all, those are the ones you really, really want to take care of. Okay. I'm going to switch it up a bit because that's health, right? And those are some of those you're like, oh, yeah, okay, I know those jobs. And maybe you didn't know salary ranges or whatnot, but I'm going to switch it up a bit because this is where, here's some jobs you might not have thought about. You've probably used some of these people in the past, or you didn't think you could actually make a career out of it, but people do. So to start that off, is an equine photographer. It's like, if you love horses, you love photography, you can do this on the side to make some extra money, or you can do it professionally. And if you're a photographer, you could do weddings. I know those are, really expensive to get a good wedding photographer. And then you could do horse photography, go out to events and get with some of these clubs and set it up. But, it's for advertising. You can do this. You can do portraits, action shots, promotional material for businesses. And, they make up to $50,000 a year annually is what I saw for just horse photographers. But you've got to be good. You got to know your photography skills, maybe some specialized training in horses, or you take a lot of photos of horses and when to take that snap, or you just, like today with the digital cameras, you just hold it. It's like shooting a video almost, and then you take the ones, and then you have that post editing skills and all of that. Develop a portfolio, and then you can go and try to drum up some business. If you love photography and you love horses, just start doing it as a hobby. Get good at it, and then build a website, and then start going out and charging people to shoot them and their horses. And all of a sudden, you've got this whole portfolio of beautiful photographs that you've taken of horses, and now you have a career, and then maybe you're going to the Olympics to take photos while they're around the dressage arena or something. So, yeah, that one was fun. I never really kind of thought about that as a career, but then seeing that pop up, I'm like, you know what, that would probably be a fun career. Here's one: equine event coordinator. And again, that made me smile because I realized, all these events that we go to, someone's got to coordinate it. If you're going to a polo match or the arena and you have some sort of competition, or, AQHA events in the United States or in Australia or, in Europe, all these different horse events, people have to coordinate that with the staff. So these coordinators, they manage the equine events, these horse shows, clinics, even clinics. So they have to worry about the logistics, the marketing to get people there, the coordination of all these horses coming, so all the participants, and then the vendors. You see all those different vendors around the arenas. When you go, different feed companies, tack companies are all set up. Somebody has to coordinate that, and that is a career. That is a job. They can make up to $60,000 annually. Maybe some of the bigger ones, they make more. But again, you need experience in event planning and management with a background in the equine industry. I bet you some of these people have bachelor's degrees too, because I know that's you can get a bachelor's degree in something like that, or just an associate's degree to get you started and then get involved. You have an event coordinator, but they have a bunch of staff helping, and that's how you get your foot in the door, get the experience, and then you can run it yourself. Okay, another one is equine journalists. It's still relevant. I mean, I have some friends that are doing this, some acquaintances. They still write for like thehorse.com and some of these other websites. Magazines are still being published, not quite as often as much as yesteryear. And this is probably a field that's it's fluid right now. It's moving, it's changing. I think there's social media, or you could be a content creator with that. So this is a field where I think it's still changing, but an equine journalist is still out there. They're still writing articles, reports, or features about the industry. Websites are the big one, but even media too, just for press releases and things, or magazines, like I said, make $30,000 to $50,000 annually. But this is where you have that degree in journalism, communications, or related field, and then a strong knowledge of the equine industry. So that is still a career out there. All right, here's one, not to bore you, but equine insurance agent, and then or an appraiser. Okay. I've talked about equine insurance. It's important. And you need agents to sell it, right? You need somebody to know what is in that insurance policy so you can call them and speak to them for what we talked about just a few weeks ago, owner's liability. You need insurance. I mean, you should, especially if you're training or riding instructor or any of that. You need insurance. You need liability insurance, and then also equine health insurance. So people need to be selling those policies and know what those policies entail. So you can sell insurance policies to horse owners or companies or all sorts of things. Again, that mortality insurance, medical, liability. Insurance agents can make anywhere from $40,000 to $70,000 per year. You need a license in insurance sales. Again, depends on the country you're in and the rules, but knowledge of the equine industry and the risks. Again, when that podcast talking about what are your responsibilities as a horse owner, you need to know, what's in that insurance policy. Okay. And I threw appraiser in here because it doesn't quite go with insurance, but similar vein. These are the ones that will assess the horse for insurance or sales, horse sales, any legal cases or estate settlements. They need to be certified from an equine appraisal program and experience in the horse industry. And they can make $40,000 to $80,000 a year. So not bad, not bad to look at a horse and know your horses. And then how about just general sales? Equine product sales representative, multiple avenues here. I mean, you're looking at the feed industry, the tack industry, everything involved with horses. There are salespeople behind that, but they can make $30,000 to $60,000 annually, but they need some sales experience or a strong knowledge of the equine industry and customer needs. So if that's something you want to get involved with, probably, get a job at a tack shop, helping get comfortable seeing all of the things in the shop. And then those sales reps come in all the time. They travel around the country or wherever you live, at the state or province. and they are updating, checking stock quantities, speaking to the tack shop owner, or they're the vendors at these shows that we just talked about. There's medical sales. Now, that's very difficult to get in because that's what I did before I went back to grad school. I was in medical sales. Those jobs are far and few in the horse industry, but they are out there. They pay pretty well. And you go and talk to veterinarians and talk about recent medications and stuff like that. So those jobs are out there. Sales is huge. I mean, everything's in sales. So sales and marketing, right? So those are the two things. Okay, so those are some other ones. Now let's get to the training. I'm sure when you thought, oh, equine jobs. Okay, equine training. Okay, I'm a horse trainer. That's a big one, right? Some horse trainers can make multi-millions. I mean, I said it in a previous podcast, I worked for D. Wayne Lucas, Hall of Fame thoroughbred trainer. And I'm sure he was quite wealthy. He's won many, many races in the many decades that he's trained horses. And, he got started as an assistant trainer. And the way I got this job, long story short, was my neighbor in San Diego was his assistant trainer. And he got me the job. That assistant trainer broke off later from him and started training his own horses and had horses in the Kentucky Derby and some of these big races. So they can do very, very well. But then you have the other side where, yeah, just train some horses, for some things. I did have students at the university wanting to be horse trainers. I don't think a college degree really is the way to go. It's just because they're so expensive these days. I guess that's a different discussion for a different day, but I had a lot of students. They ended up being horse trainers, but they spent $60,000, $100,000 getting that undergraduate degree. And I was like, oh, you don't need that to be a horse trainer, really. And a lot of you listening or watching have probably trained horses, and you know that because you really just need extensive experience. Different training techniques, go to clinics, work with somebody. I mean, there are certificates from different training organizations that you can go after. But, it's not just racing, but, show jumping and dressage or general riding, training these horses how to be ridden and compete. General salary line, 30,000 a year to 60,000 a year averages. But again, I said some of these can do really, really well. And you start with under somebody else, getting that experience. You start mucking stalls. I mean, that's where we all started, getting that basic handling down, that basic care. And then you work your way up to where you're training your own horses. Then you have a riding instructor. So that could be different, but I know people do both. And I'm sure some of you listening do both. But a riding instructor is where you lesson. You get lesson horses, you get the beginners to the advanced riders, and you train them. So, we all started somewhere. We all had our coaches or our teachers when we first got on the back of horses. And so those were our riding instructors, and they can make $25,000, $50,000 a year. So that's why people do both. Like they do lessons while they're training horses on the side. And again, need extensive riding experience, under another riding instructor. And there are some certificate programs too. So you can check those out. Because that leads me to therapy, which again is one of my favorites. I just love the idea of therapeutic riding. There are certificates. This is where you want to be certified, or most of you are, or people that work there. They are certified in equine assisted therapy, and then they have a background in psychology, counseling, or social work. Because if you've got troubled teens coming to your property to get some therapeutic riding, you have to recognize certain things, right? Again, it's going to depend on where you live in the world, but physiotherapy, probably don't need psychology, maybe, but it just depends. And this is where you're using those horses as therapy, and you can make $30,000 to $60,000 annually. So you can kind of see where you can adjust, you can do a couple of these jobs. Like maybe you're a riding instructor, but you love photography. And so you do photography on the side. So now all of a sudden you are making six figures. You combine a couple of these. Then this one I thought was interesting. Behaviorists, a specialist, modifying behavior with horses. So it's not quite training per se. It's more you have a troubled horse that has anxiety or stress or aggression, and you bring in this specialist that can come in and help rehabilitate this horse, proper behavioral modification techniques. Generally, they have degrees in like animal behavior, animal psychology, and then have that experience working with troubled horses. And they could make upwards of, $70,000, $80,000 a year. Then you have your stable manager. Many friends or worked for me at the universities. A lot of students were stable managers, helping fund their education. That were my friends. I helped my friends feed out horses left, right, and center while they were finishing school. They are overseeing the daily operations of a stable. That includes horse care, making sure the horses are fed and cared for. Any staff that they might have, they supervise. Any client relationships with the farm owner. And then maintenance, fence maintenance. That's a daily thing, everything else. So generally you want to have experience in horse care and management. So you definitely do, because I wouldn't want a stable manager that didn't know anything about horses. But also maybe some business management skills, like especially if you're going to own your own stable, charging and then taxes and all that fun stuff. So just some basic business and then marketing and making sure your name's out there. Your stable manager can do that. At every university I had, we always had wonderful stable managers, and they can make up to $55,000 a year. It depends. Universities, they were doing a little bit better than that because they were teaching. So if you're really a stable manager, maybe look at a university that spot opens up, and you can do some teaching on the side that will boost that salary. Then the good old barn hand groom. That's where I started off my career. This is where I learned a lot. And I started off as barn hand / groom. I was hot walking horses, feeding horses, holding horses for the farrier, holding horses for the veterinarian, getting horses off and on the trailers, and then taking them to the races, helping them, and after race, care. So this is where I learned a lot, and a lot of us start there, and it's daily care for the horses. I mean, ensuring they're fed, they have water, they're groomed, stalls are clean. So you're cleaning a lot of stalls, general maintenance. Like I said, Wayne Lucas, our barn was immaculate, and we had a sand, how do I say it? A mound that we would walk our horses by hand every day for 45 minutes to an hour each horse. So we didn't use the automatic or mechanical. We hand walked every single horse in that barn. And at the end of the day, we raked it up beautifully. A certain pattern. I still remember my pattern. I still rake the same way this many years later. And then we'd water it down, and it looked beautiful. It was just a beautiful, beautiful barn. Salary range $20,000 to $35,000 annually. It was a summer job. I think I was making minimum wage, and I didn't care. I don't remember. I think I have a pay stub somewhere. I have to find one day because I kept it, but I didn't care. I was working for an incredible trainer, and it was an incredible experience. And I learned a lot about horses in the time I worked for him. But this is where you get all that hands-on experience. So you start there, then you learn and move your way up. Okay, final one, because I could be here all day listing out jobs, but those are probably some of the jobs that you've done or are interested in. And I wanted to save this one for last. That's the equine nutritionist. So obviously, Mad Barn is producing this podcast, and we have an incredible, talented team of qualified equine nutritionists. I do want to tip my hat to them. But it's a very, very important job, especially in today's world. Really need a specialized area of knowledge. Not anybody can just go be an equine nutritionist. There's a lot of things to consider. And like I love my DVMs. I got to protect them, but many of them do not get general equine nutrition in vet school. Some might get it in undergrad because we taught them, and I had students in our nutrition courses, and then they went off to become veterinarians. But equine vets will admit to you, or they should, how much nutrition research or nutrition knowledge they have, because it is a specialized field that has changed a lot. Now, a lot of DVMs do go on and get that knowledge. And one is Dr. Eleanor Kellen, who works with Mad Barn. We have wonderful DVMs on our team that are equine nutritionists. So just be aware of that. But then you get your nutritionists who have master's degrees or PhDs. And these are the ones that have done research or are doing research in equine nutrition. I'm thinking of Dr. Lori Warrens of the world and many of my students that came through our programs that have gone off and done wonderful things. Some have gone off to become veterinarians. So they had an equine nutrition master's. Then they went and got their DVMs and they're practicing. So generally a bachelor's, yeah, I mean, unless they've been in the field for a while, yeah, I mean, I could see that. But usually master's degree or higher in animal science and nutrition with a focus on equine nutrition, because horses are different from cows and other species, even though there is some overlap. Can $50,000 to $90,000 annually. So it is an excellent field. And if you really want to get into science of the horses, you want to go get a master's degree or possibly a PhD, this is most likely the field you're going to be in. Most of the research, especially in 2024, at major universities around the world, are going to be focused on equine nutrition. Some do focus on equine welfare. Very few focus on equine repro anymore. That's more of a DVM field now. So when I came through, I was probably some of the last students to come through getting PhDs in equine reproduction, at least in the United States. There are still a few programs out there, but not many. Many are just going to be coming out of the vet schools. But if you are looking, say, Canada, United States, Australia, Europe, and you want to get a master's or a PhD, it's going to probably be in equine nutrition, but it's an incredible field, incredible opportunities, and it's a growing industry. And you can make more than 90,000. I mean, some of these professors are making six figures, or if you go work for a private company, you're making well over six figures. Okay, so that's a summary of all the jobs that, just 15 of them roughly. There's probably 60 more I could have listed. Like I was talking about the trailers and driving and all of specialized grooms that go, or these people that are transporting airplanes. And there are so many jobs. There's millions and millions of people working in the horse industry around the world, and donkeys, right? I mean, just in the United States alone, 2.2 million jobs in the US support the over 7 million horses. And that's data from last year. So if you want to get involved in the horse industry, you can. You can. There are employment opportunities that match your skills, your expertise, your passions. And just to finish this out, not everybody needs a job in the industry if you want to be involved. Most anybody can own and enjoy a horse. But it is just one of those fields that are just so rewarding. And I encourage any of you that have, especially young people, children, young adults, teens that are thinking about their careers and they love horses, have them listen to this podcast, but let them know you can follow your passion. You absolutely can work with these animals for the rest of your life. And I'm a perfect example of that. So thank you for watching. Just don't forget to like and subscribe that button, and keep monitoring the space for more videos to come. Take care.